Okay, on the first one, it wants to know which of the triangles would not lie on the same straight line. And if we're talking about the same straight line, then that means they have to have the same what? Same what? Slope. Right here. Same straight line means the same slope. And how do we find slope when they're on a triangle like that? Rise over run, which would be what? 1 over 3. What would this be? 6 over 18, which simplifies to what? 1/3. And here? 2/3. So which one would not be on the same line? C. Okay, so now on number 2, before I get to the answer, I want to know what strategy did you do for this one? Well, hopefully, I'm sorry, everybody should have found the slope the same way, correct? So let's do the slope. Tell me what to do. Tell me what to write. So 3 minus -1 over 1 minus 3. So 3 minus -1 would be 4, and then 1 minus 3 would be -2, and that simplifies to what? -2. So if this time it's asking me to write the whole equation, so that means I need y equals mx plus b. So I just found the m, correct? Now I have to find the b, and this is what I'm saying. We didn't explicitly teach how to do this this week or anything, but I think you guys should have come up with a strategy. Who wants to share what you did? Come on, y'all. Nobody? Thank you, Evan. How to find the b. The y-intercept. So nobody in this room had a strategy. Thank you.
I inserted the x because it's y equals mx, right?
So
I inserted the x and the y.
Of what?
Of the points.
Of both points or just 1 point?
1 point.
1 point. Which one did you use?
1.
Perfect. So we're going to use this point. So what she's saying is instead of y, she plugged in what? 3. Instead of m, we use -2. Instead of x, she's going to use 1. And now we're going to just solve for b. Do you agree with that strategy? Do I have only one unknown now in my equation? Yeah, let's see. So -2 times 1 is what? -2 plus what gives me 3? So b equals 5. And if b equals 5, then that means the equation should be y equals -2x plus 5. Okay, that is one strategy for finding the b. Did anybody do it a different way?
I kind of set it up like that, and I went back 1. I used the first, then I went back 1, and then I used the slope.
Hang on, you're ahead. I'm with you. So the other way would be to use a table, and so it was 1, 3, and 3, -1. And you already knew in order to find b, we needed to get x to be 0, correct? So we had already been doing +2, so that means I have to do what? -1, which is half of what we were doing. So to get from 3 to -1 would be what? -4. So I do the opposite going back, but I only need to do half of the opposite. So that would be what? +2. And so 3 plus 2 is 5. And once you got your 0, 5, then that is another way to get the b of 5. Okay? Either one of those ways is a good strategy, whichever one works for you. I don't really know of another one. Did somebody do it a different way? Oh, well, I guess you could graph it. If you took some graph paper and you actually drew these points on the graph, connected the dot, and then saw it. You always have access to graph paper. It's on the thing. Even during the STAR test, you just ask for graph paper. They'll give you some. So that would be another way. Can anyone think of another way? Me neither. That's all I've got. That's 3 different ways. I'm just curious, Okay. Good job. All right. How about, I didn't put it in there. Questions from the homework. Well, if nobody has any questions, then we're going to move on. Okay. So if you look at the board, we're talking about y-intercept specifically today, and also rational number y-intercepts, okay? So on here, y-intercept, what would you call it? The blank value, the blank value, initial value, or starting value, okay? It's the value where x equals 0. It's also b. Slope intercept form we know is y equals mx plus b. And so we've been focusing a lot on slope, but let's switch gears and talk more about the b today. Okay, so we're going to do this one in the middle here. First of all, what is 9? The y-intercept. Easy peasy, right? Okay, now how do we do slope? Rise over run. Pick another point. Doesn't matter. That one right there. What did we do to get there? -3. We went down 3 and then to the right 1. So what is the slope? -3, right? Because it'd be -3 over 1, which is -3. So now what's the equation? Plus 9. Perfect. Okay. Let's look at this one. What's my y-intercept? Negative what? -6. It's right there. It's easy peasy. Find another point. Okay. Do the rise. What is it? 2. Why is it 2? Because the scale, y'all, don't get fooled, the scale. So it went up 2 and then from 0 to 3, 3. So the slope is what? 2/3, and that makes the equation 2/3 x minus 6 or 2/3 x plus -6, either way. Okay. All right. Let's skip down here to this vertical line. We briefly the other day talked about a vertical line. Tell me about the slope of the vertical line. It is undefined because if you just to remember, let's refresh our memories. If I pick 2 points here, that would be -6, 2 and -6, 6. When I subtract my x's, so 6 minus 2 is 4. But when I subtract my x's, I get 0 on the denominator. And remember, anything divided by 0 is undefined. Y'all remember that? We also said that a vertical line is not a function. Okay, so it has an undefined slope. Tell me about the y-intercept on this one. There isn't one.
It doesn't intercept.
It never crosses the y-intercept, so you just put none. Okay, but we still can write an equation for this line. Okay.
Y equals undefined x.
No, because remember, okay, when you look at the equation, the equation tells you where to put it. For example, like if this line wasn't there, if I knew what the equation was, I should be able to plot it. So we have to, it's got to be something, right? So what do you think? X is going to equal something. Because look, guys, everywhere on this line, what's the same?
Y.
X is the same everywhere. What is X equal to? -6. That's it. X equals -6.
Can't say anything else.
There's nothing else to say about it. There's nothing else to say about it. It's just saying it's a line of X equals -6. Okay, that's why I wanted to do that one together because we hadn't seen one like that. All right, guys, the 3 that have the hearts that are left on your page, go ahead and do those. Pause the video if you're at home. So on the first one, I got a y-intercept of 3. Up 1 over 2. Slope was 1/2. So y equals 1/2 x plus 3. Did you guys get that? Okay. That doesn't, but you still got the same thing, right? Yeah. Okay. And then here, my y-intercept is the origin, or 0. So I'm going to pick this guy up here. It went up 8 over 2. Did you pay attention to the scale? 8 over 2 equals 4. So then the equation is y equals 4x. Okay, we've got another weirdo here. Tell me about this last one. What's the slope? 0. We did one of these the other day. Again, if I were picking points here, 0, 7, I'll pick another point over here. 5, 7. 7 minus 7 over 5. What did I just say here? 5, 7. Yeah. 5 minus 0. So 7 minus 7 is 0. 5 minus 0 is 5. But 0 divided by 5 is 0. Remember? Oh, let's record this. If the line was a vertical line on here, then that would be x equals 0. And then the question is, how many y-intercepts are there? I would think an infinite amount because it's constantly crossing it, okay? But anyway, on this one, so let's erase that. On this one, there was, the y-intercept was what? 7. And then what is the equation? Y equals 7. Good. So now you can also see how every time you see a vertical or horizontal line, it's going to simply have a number. X equals whatever or Y equals a number. And that's it. Okay? All right. Questions? Okay, let's go to the next page. So now what we want to do is we want to actually graph, okay? We need to get where we can actually graph it, all right? So from the equation, what is the slope? I'm sorry? -5. And we should probably write it as a fraction. So what should we put? -5 over 1. Why do I want to write it as a fraction? Because it stands for rise over run. Knowing I'm about to come down here and graph it, then I need to actually know what that means. And the y-intercept is what? 7. So this is for you to just make a little sketch of what it's supposed to look like. So I would sketch the y-intercept somewhere up here. And then what's going to happen? It's going to go down. Good. It's just a sketch. It's not perfect. That's right, because it's nice. Negative going down. Okay? Now we're going to come down here to the real graph, and let's actually do it. Okay? So it was y-intercept of 7. Put a dot. Okay? Now we're going to go -5 and over 1. So what does that mean? Down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And to the right 1. And put a dot. Do you think you should do that again? Yes, because any 2 points make a straight line, but 3 will get us even a better line. Okay, and I try to do it as many times as I can if I have the space. Okay, and then you're going to use your nifty rulers that I gave you.
Oh, dang.
And connect the dots. The last thing you want to do with that line is go ahead and label it. This was question number 4. So go ahead and put a 4 on that very first one. And so that way you're labeling your lines. Okay? And you're doing 5 and 6 by yourself. On number 5, I went up 3 into the right one, up 3 to the right one, up 3 to the right one. But look, I only used half of my graph. So I want to go back to the origin and go the other way. What will I need to do? Yeah, down 3 and left 1. So I need to make both of them in the negative direction in order to continue that line. You should be using a ruler if you have one. And it's not exact. My lines are kind of thick. Huh? Oh, and label it. That was number 5. So your paper should look something like mine. And does anyone have a question about how to graph them? Does it matter really how many points you put on the line? No. In fact, on the last one, because it had a slope of 1, I did not want to just put dot, dot, dot right here. I spread them out. I just kept going up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. It also could be up 5 over 5, right? As long as you pick two numbers that simplify down to 1. Okay? All right. If we're good, let's go to the next page. Okay? So guys, take a look at this graph on the next page. What do you notice, bless you, about the y-intercept? Uh-oh. What do you notice about the y-intercept? It's going to be a fraction. It's no longer easy peasy like all the ones that we've been doing up until now have been, boom, it's right here, you can see it. Okay, so the question says, what about when the y-intercept is not a whole number? So here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to pick 2 points. Then we're going to find their slope. And then we're going to use the linear equation. What is it? Y equals mx plus b. And one of the points to solve for b. Does this sound familiar to anybody? Sound familiar? This strategy? What? What does it sound like? Oh, come on. Really? This sounds not familiar to anybody in the room?
I know.
Sounds familiar, but
It sounds familiar.
Because it isn't what you said in the warm-up? So Trudy, that didn't sound familiar to you at all? Wow. Yikes. I think y'all are like half asleep this morning.
I am definitely half asleep.
All right. Then you're going to write the final equation. Okay, so let's come over here and do it. Let's pick a point. I see an easy point right there. If I've got zeros, those are helpful. All right, so what's the name of that point? -3, 0. And then give me another really good point. Yeah, I like that one too. 3, -3. Okay,
Oh my gosh.
so first, let's find the slope. What are we going to do? We could. Sure, let's do rise over run. So that would be how much? 3 over, from 3 to -3 would be how much? How much? -6, because we went left. That's exactly correct. So then that makes the slope what? -1/2. How many of you would have done rise over run? And would anybody have used the point slope formula? Okay, let's do that way as well. So that would be 0 minus -3 over -3 minus 3. Well, this becomes 3. This becomes -6, which is still -1/2. So the same thing. Okay. So that was the first step. Find the slope. Check. Next, use the linear equation and one of the points to solve for b. So which point do we want to use? Oh my gosh, make a decision. -3, 0. Thank you. Okay, so now we're taking it y equals mx plus b. So in my point, -3, 0, what is y? 0. What is m? -1/2. That's what we just did. What is x? -3 plus b. Now does it look familiar?
yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, so now let's solve it. So -1/2 times -3 would be what? 3 over 2 plus b equals 0. So how do I solve that?
You just subtract.
Yeah, we would subtract 3/2 from both sides.
So that would be equal to.
So b equals -3/2. Give me another way to say -3/2. Or -1.5 or -1.5. Now look back at the original graph. Does that seem reasonable?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. But we could not have guessed it because we just knew it was a fraction. But y'all, So don't try to guess what it is. You need to actually figure it out. But once you're done, then please go back and do what I did and be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's reasonable. That's a reasonable answer. Okay? All right. How about you guys try the 2 on the bottom? You guys try the 2 on the bottom. Pause the video. Okay, I'm going to show the key for the first one only. Did you guys get that the y-intercept was negative 2.5? Okay. So then your equation would be y equals 1/2 x minus 2.5. Or did anybody put 5 over 2? That's fine as well. Okay. And does that y-intercept make sense?
Yes.
Oh, y'all can't see. Yeah. Does that y-intercept make sense? Here's the origin. So it's 1, 2, 2.5. Yeah. And guys, do y'all see, this is my key that I did obviously ahead of time. Do y'all see my little check mark right there? That's me saying that this is a reasonable y-intercept, right? 2.5, looking at the picture. Okay. Did anyone have a question or do I need to talk through that one? Are we good? Okay. Do we need more time on the one on the right? Yeah. Take a few more seconds. Let's look at the one on the right. Did you get that b was 3 1/4? Yeah, so then the equation would be y equals 3/4 x plus 3 1/4. And then up here, looking at the original, yeah, it's just above 3. So 3 1/4 is reasonable. So I need to talk about that one. Ready? Okay. All right, so now what I have is some partner practice for you. So this was the second page that you guys picked up. It's by itself. If you look on the front, these are the answer choices. You're just matching the equations with the graphs, okay? And then we're going to check on the next page in a minute. So you're going to pause the video now and work with a partner. Okay, let's check. Here's the key. Pause as you need to. Ask questions as you need to. Okay. And the homework is the last page in the packet.